be sharing the screen. I think we'll try to just uh, both of us kind of just will just
All right. So
talk through.
so I started recording, guys. We're here for a little education from Vineet and Madhukar, and take it away, guys.
All right. Marco, again, first, thanks for the opportunity. I think we're really excited. And I think this is a topic which is very near and dear to our heart. And frankly, this is what I would say is really the synthesis of my two worlds, my sort of background in tech, and then my love for real estate kind of all kind of coming together. Frankly, having been part of MIH, and learning the real estate world and not as an investor but sort of when I kind of joined the MIH Mastermind MIH program, kind of got to learn and got to hear a lot of things that our colleagues, our friends here do on a day-to-day basis, and the challenges, right? So Madhukar is a bit of an AI whiz. He'll introduce himself in a second, but just those who do not know me, I've been in San Francisco Bay Area for last 20 years. Collectively, I've spent 25 years in software and tech, continue to do so with my W2 job. I'm a real estate investor since 2019. Marco mentioned my uncle, Dr. Gupta. That's what I started with builds and flips in Poughkeepsie area with him, but then got introduced and became part of the MIH program. And since then I've invested with help of Marco, Chris, Lauren, invested in syndication and JV deals. And I've also helped kind of raise friends and family capital for some of the syndication deals. And anyone who wants to connect, please drop me an email. I love to network. I love to chat. Look, over the years, I think my mantra has evolved, but something that I live by is, invest for cash flow, be responsible investing, partner for long term, which is what the MIH family is all about. And then, ultimately, a student for life, and relationships are everything. Marco knows my family, Marco knows my uncle. Relationships is something that we thrive on. Madhukar, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Vineet, and thanks, Marco, for having me. And hey, everyone, my name is Madhukar, and today I am a CEO and founder of a company called Robin AI. We'll talk a little bit about this, but very similar to Vineet. Vineet and I worked very long time ago, so I still think of him as my very dear friend. But I've been in the tech and in the Bay Area for the last 20 years or so. And I started off my career as an engineer, as a developer. Somebody said, "Hey, you're good at this, go try product management." And then finally, I became a chief marketing officer for the last 5 years in multiple tech unicorns here in the Bay Area. And a couple of years ago, I started to see what was happening in AI, and that pulled me back into the engineering side of things. And I was seeing things, what's happening in tech and also in marketing. So last year, I founded this company just to try and build a platform where anybody could be a marketer and they will be able to do marketing at one-tenth the cost and 10x the speed. And that primarily is around not just the chat GPTs of the world, but because it has now evolved into something called agents. So what I wanted to do today was just very high level talk about what's an agent and how you can use your agent on your day-to-day work. And we talked to Christina where she uses it inside of Claude. And so before I jump in, I just wanted to have a very quick show of hands. How many people are using something like a Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini on a day-to-day basis? Okay, I see one, two. Yeah, so this would help me frame this in a way that everybody understands. So let's think about when ChatGPT came about, it was a chatbot, right? And chatbot was primarily you ask it something, it predicts the next word and gives you the answer. So in many ways, it's just a faster and a much more intelligent conversationalist. But then about 1 year or so ago, we had agents. But before I describe what is an agent, let's take a step back as business owners or anybody, what and try to understand what is marketing's base principles. Like, what is marketing? And everybody has fancy ways of explaining it. To me, it is very simple that you take your service, your product, your whatever you're offering, and you bring it to the right customer at the right time. And the way to do that, you could say, is one, by creating awareness. So people coming to you, or you find the right people that you think are your ideal customers, and then you reach out. So in marketing speak, it's called inbound and outbound. So how do people know you and how do you generate awareness? That's through website, as you all of you would have one for every property or even your investments that you're doing or even your own personal site. So think of it as a place where people go and find out about you. But the way they get there is through social media or Google search. And now people are also asking ChatGPT. And sometimes you would also go put ads to drive traffic over there. So once they come to your website, that is considered to be an inbound. And that is, in my experience, 10 times more valuable than us reaching out because they're already showing intent. They're already there because they know you, they're trying to find out more. So today we'll double click into that to see what are some of the things that you could do that will absolutely, not drop the ball when somebody's already ready to engage with you. And outbound is this is where marketing gets a bad name in the sense for years and years, some marketers have been collecting emails and blasting them with 5 million emails. And then based on who opened it, and then you have a second touch and third touch, then you engage with them with an offer. And that offer could be come to my event and then maybe come to my website and sign up for the form. So typically in a marketing team, and I'm sure a lot of you might have this, you do this with like a team of people. And those team of people would be a website manager. It could be somebody who is managing your email campaigns, somebody who's managing your social media, let's say for Reels and others, somebody who's managing ads. Sometimes these are agencies. As you get bigger and bigger, you tend to have multiple products and you tend to have a lot of money in different places, and things start to disaggregate.
Or for that matter, look, a lot of you are already using VAs, virtual assistants, if you will, or frankly, some of us are doing it ourselves. Either which way, I think these are the tasks that I think everyone is doing in one way or form. And these are time-consuming activities. And one thing that I've kind of learned and seen here is one thing that's kind of common currency across everyone is everyone's short on time.
Yeah. So now think about this. If these are different people and different agencies doing the work for you, now let's look on the agent side. What exactly is an agent? And here I'm using not a property agent, I'm using an AI agent as a word. So an AI agent, you can almost think of it as like a quasi co-worker that has basically four things. The brain is a model. You don't have to worry about what that model is. It's getting better and better. Could be ChatGPT, could be Claude, could be 20 other models that are now there. The second is tools. So when we do a work or when we hire somebody to do a work, we give them tools. We give them a computer, we give them an email address, we give them access to social media, and so on. Third is skills. And skills, I think of it as if I hire somebody, then I want to know if that person understands what is website management, what is search engine optimization. These are things that they have learned by making mistakes in their career, and then now they have kind of codified in their brain. So think of skills as a very specific set of instructions that I'm giving to an employee. And then the last piece is memory. This is the hardest for AI because unlike humans, AI forgets very quickly, especially from each conversation to each conversation, you start to lose quote unquote context. But for humans, memory really comes down to your long term knowledge and then there's the short-term events that are happening, and the two combine so that we can then make choices. And so here in this memory, think of it as that's why they are not as intelligent as human, is because they don't have judgment, they don't have discretion. So now you build all of this together and you can start to shape it to do your work, but with some hardness, with some sort of guardrails, so it doesn't go and start to do things that you don't want it to do or what it's not good at doing. So I'll pause here. Vineet, if you want to add something, or if there are any questions, and then I'll jump into how this agent you can use for your day-to-day work using something like Claude or even ChatGPT, but I'll show it to you with Claude.
Yeah, let's see if there are questions, but I do want to add something before we move on to the next section. Again, guys, this is like not sort of anything formal. We are a family here. Happy to answer any questions along the way. So please, either drop them in chat or just unmute yourself and raise it. One thing I do want to say is that, look, as we were thinking about this, our friend and MIH member, Christina Kovacs, she was very gracious to, talk to us, describe to us some of her um, like what day in life looks like, both from a property when she manages her properties, but also then as an investor, real estate professional, and how she is improving her brand, right? So I want you to all focus on this from both angles to say that, uh, Christina is an investor. Christina is also building her own brand, her outreach. She's trying to get to a stage where people understand what Christina offers and what her ultimately value prop is, if you will. But then also, then she has individual properties, and one of the use cases we're going to take is Meadowview in Springfield, Missouri, where, that property is basically an offering and a product at that time, right? So I want you to kind of just have that sort of like two lenses, if you will, right? One is when you're acquiring the property, when you're trying to meet the like-minded people, prospects, if you will, and then second is when you have the apartment community as the offering, if you will, as your product, and how you sort of like think do activities in context of such a property, right? So we'll be kind of going back and forth, and examples that we're going to be showing are in context of Christina that she's graciously agreed for us to leverage today.
Yeah, so let's look at Claude because obviously I am representing my company, but at the same time, I also want you to understand that that's not the only solution. Like there's 20 others. Ours is very specific to marketing, so we'll talk through that. But since mostly, a lot of people can just go buy Claude for 20 bucks a month, or if you're a heavy user, 200 bucks a month, I wanted to show how you could use it even today. And I have no affiliations to Claude or Anthropic. So when you are in Claude, you actually have three different modes. This is the classic mode, and this classic mode is just chat. So I can ask it question and it returns. So this is, circa 2024, where you can ask questions. It has deep knowledge about all the data in internet, and it can answer questions to you. If you're building code or building applications, that's the code. We'll ignore it for now. But here's co-work. And co-work is actually, think of it as your co-worker, the agent that we were talking about earlier. To give you an idea, what are some of the things can it do? The things that it can do is actually the skills that you can provide and the tools that you can give it. So one of the tools that I've given it is through this thing called projects. I've created a bunch of different projects. And then within this project itself, I've given it access to my folder, which is on the computer. So that's the first tool because on this folder, it can now read, write, and so on. So what can it do with read and write? Well, the first thing is right before this call, I asked it to build a deck for me. So the deck that I was just showing you, it just built it. And when I say show in folder, there it is. And I can now open it and use it inside of any browser. So that's one thing it can do, which is it can generate decks and so on. But let's say I want to, and this is a real use case. Let's say I wanted to review an NDA or some legal document. I'm not saying go and replace your lawyers, but I do want to now be able to be a little bit more smart about when somebody sends a legal document to me. So what I've done is, and these are all freely available. If you want, we can share some resources. So what you do is you go to this thing called Customize, and now within Customize, you can see what makes an agent an agent. Connectors are tools that I have access to and I've given it. So for example, I use Granola to transcribe my meetings. So I've connected Claude to it so it can read through the transcript and then I'll show you what it can do with it. I've given it access to my Gmail and Google Calendar, but there is a way to do this if you are very security conscious so that it doesn't send on your behalf, never deletes anything, and all of that. That gets into a slightly deeper conversation. But here's the interesting part, and that is skills. So here it has a bunch of legal skills. And within legal skills, think of it as a very long prompt or a set of things you want it to do, but in plain English. And these are available from certain lawyers, experts. If you just go search up for legal skills or skills related to NDAs, contracts, you can just download it and then you can use these skills in your agent. And I'll show that in a second. So there's a compliance check, legal response, and so on. But in addition, I also have marketing skills. And marketing skills gives me, oh, go do a campaign plan for me or competitive brief. The marketing plan, of course, here is where you start to go to level 2. You don't want to use it as is because if everybody else is using the same thing, now your marketing starts to look like AI and it's not differentiated. So that's one of the reasons why we built Robin, and I'll show that. But there are other things. There is sales, so you can do things like daily briefing, outreach, forecast, pipeline, and so on, right? And this one gives us skills to go look at an Excel sheet and then create tables, create formulas, create charts. I was terrible at it, so this has like been a lifesaver for me. So now that I have the skills and the connectors, and I can give it more connectors by clicking on plus. And here, you can go with like 200 or so different apps that you might be using. And when you choose one, it'll ask you to authenticate, and then you might decide to give it full access, or you could also say, no, no, before you use this, I always want you to ask me first or get my approval. So now that we have this, what are some of the things that you can do with it? Well, first and foremost, I am extremely lazy. So what I want to do is basically talk to it. And here's the way you can talk to it by clicking on press and record. And you can build what is called live artifacts. So for my own business, I've built this weekly pulse, which it's fetching now, which will go and get how many people have signed up for our app and things like that. And it will basically, give me insights that I would go to a data analyst for. Similarly, what I also do is I have tasks. So it looks at my email, it looks at my Granola meeting notes, and then it looks at calendar. And every day in the morning at 5 a.m., it goes and updates for me, and it'll drop a notification saying, dude, these are things you need to take care of. Just go do it today. And some of these things I'll come back to it and say, no, you take care of it. Just write a draft, put it in my email. So here's my morning task briefing, which sends this to me every day. And I can use it also through my phone. using called dispatch. But that's a whole different conversation altogether.
One thing I want to add here is that, look, each of you are doing so much research about your markets, about kind of changing any kind of laws in the region or counties or states that you're working in, looking for any kind of, there are a number of ways and places where you search for potential deals that are coming to market or anything that is happening in the market, right? So imagine a scenario where now this is being done for you and being kind of handed to you at your demand, at your sort of if you will, click of a or a point of a button, if you will. But more importantly, the thing is that unlike your VA, this is working 24 by 7 for you, right? And this is where I would say that AI is the most seismic shift after internet that we're going to experience in our lifetimes, right? So if one thing you could get, and one thing I could basically say you walk away from this call today is one way or the other, I would urge all of you to start s- experimenting and start seeing how you could leverage AI in your work if you're not already doing so. I know a lot of us are, but again, my request would be for the MIH family and people out there is that it's either you're AI ready or you're left behind.
Yep. So moving along now, I'm going to switch over to Christina as a use case or as a something that you can relate to. So let's say I am Christina, and on a day-to-day basis, I do a bunch of different things, and this is where Robin comes in. So when she goes to Robin, let me switch over to her. So when she comes to Robin, we have connected a bunch of her systems, her CRM and others. This one's not connected, so it tells her, hey, look, this is how people are finding you. These are the things that people are asking ChatGPT and others to get to you. And here's some of the updates about other things that might be related or interesting to you. Do you want to take an action? So you can either publish a response if it's a review or things like that. And here it's very specific to
So,
marketing.
Madhukar, actually, let's back up tiny bit. So, I think what is important to know is how did we even get here with Christina, right? So, in Robin, and Madhukar, you can describe it, but basically, you just pointed Christina Kovac's website to Robin, and then Robin started learning about Christina, right? Based on at least how it's described on her website, all of it. And then ultimately, Christina has an opportunity to add more data, more document, more context, if you will, enrich it, which may or may not be present on her website.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So think of it as the memory or the knowledge we were talking about, and that's here. So, it knows her voice, identity, her writing style, and you can steer it and change it however you want, logo, color style, and all that. And then here is think of it as your marketing agent. So now because it knows you and is learning from you, you can make it do things. So maybe you can talk about this use case, Vineet, because
Yeah.
you're the one who had done this.
Yeah. So look, one of the things, as we were having conversation with Christina about day in life, right? So this is basically before she's acquired a property, let's say, and she's looking to basically get in deal with one of these properties in near Springfield, Missouri. And before you actually kind of close out on that deal, let's just say this property needs some roofing work, and it could be any kind of thing, right? Christina doesn't live in Springfield, Missouri. A lot of you do work which is not in like out of state and out of region. You may or may not have boots on ground. But with that being said, the simple ask was, to get a list of reputed roofing contractors in a particular area, right? Now, obviously, you could go to Yelp for it, you could go to other places, but this is but one example, right? And so beyond this, what you could also do is you could basically immediately say, okay, I found this. Now give me a personalized list of emails that I could be sending out. Or, Madhukar will show an example where if you wanted to kind of make a phone call to this through the agent without a human present, whether yourself or your VA, to be able to get those quotes on a phone call, right? So all of those things become possible. All of a sudden, you could unlock these host of capabilities, and you can gonna learn about it in terms of how these things are done. While I'm talking, Madhukar, one thing I also wanted to talk about is this give me one pager that I can send to my prospect. The second, so imagine one scenario where, let's just say, Christina met someone at a networking event, and that person said, "Hey, where do I learn about you?" Or obviously she can point them to her website. But then, if for example she wanted to tailor something to it and send it very, very quickly, right? It is as simple as pointing to this tool and saying, I would like you to create a one pager. And if she had a specific need to say, but tailor it to, let's just say, multifamily, or tailor it to commercial, and highlight that as an experience. All of a sudden it becomes, now beauty is that is all Christina said. She didn't say do it in this color. She didn't say, give this content, because it all has prior knowledge of Christina ahead of time because of that memory that this builds. Make sense?
Yeah, and then I just dropped the link because as you generate these one pagers, and let's say you want to share it with external people, and then you want it to, disappear after few hours or 7 days because it's maybe sensitive or whatever, you could do that as well. So now let's flip over to Christina's one of her properties. I think that's what it's called. So it's called the Meadow View Apartments.
Mhm.
And so Meadow View Apartments has its own presence inside of Robin. And so
It's
within
also,
Meadow View,
again, it started with its own website, and then ultimately it is sort of like its own represented entity within Robin.
yeah. And then what we also did was we pulled that website into Robin. So you can, in a very point and click way, I can just go in and make changes. So let's say if I wanted to change this to maybe 2 words, we could do something like that. Or I could just ask it to say, hey, change this to a different font. So that's one of the things you could do. And you can generate articles based on what people are searching for. So it does all the research for you. But let's see the external facing version of this. So this is the external facing version of this apartment complex. And now the Robin agent is right here, and it knows everything about this specific property. So here I could say, let's say now I'm pretending to be a user coming to this website. And
Prospective tenant.
yeah, so I could say, what are some of the floor plans available? And these are things you can add with like simple English to say, hey, when somebody asks this, I want you to go and say this.
Yeah.
And I could
So,
also do,
so notice that not only did it give the information about what is available, but if you focus on the second paragraph, it also has the awareness in terms of when is it available from, right? So that is something that you may or may not be able to put on your website, or at least it takes time to keep that updated. But if you have your CRM system connected to this, right, it's automatically giving the most latest information, most up-to-date information to the tenant.
yeah, so I can also do things like, have there been any evictions? And then I could also say, what's the rent and deposit? And then maybe it says, oh, you should book a tour. Okay. so let's try that. Yeah, so this one's not connected to the calendar. When we connect to the calendar, it can help you book that. But let me show you what's driving this behavior and conversation. So when you come into Robin, you actually go into the agent settings. And within the agent settings, you can do a couple of things. You can see all the conversations that's happening. And if I were to if I were to connect my calendar, I'll be able to see which ones have, been booked and when. So now here's what's the conversation we had, and so on. The way you define what it should answer is in this thing's called rules and guardrails. So for example, I've said there have been no evictions in the Meadow apartments. There are 12 available units. Deposit is typically 1 month's rent. So I can add multiple of these, and it will always take those as ground rules and then be able to answer with that. In addition, when you as an owner are chatting with Robin, you can also say, hey, I want you to remember this. So it'll add that as a remembered rule. And then from here, when you are done, you could say, forget it. Or so you can manage that memory. But
And
now,
similarly, if, for example, because you have access to all the conversations that are taking place between the prospective tenants on your website and Robin Agent, you can basically go and kind of update your rules accordingly and answer those questions so that next time someone comes in, those questions are already pre-answered for them, right? So it sort of like becomes a bit of a feedback loop.
yeah, and then there is, if people use WhatsApp, Telegram, or Signal, for example, here's my same agent, but I'm using Telegram because, it's on my phone and it's on my computer. So from here, I can also engage with it. It can also be in Slack. So let's pretend that as a user, I now went in and booked a meeting with this agent. So the next thing I might want as part of my business is I want to make sure that this is a qualified person. I want to make sure that it's not somebody, who just randomly booked a meeting. And this is true for not just for property, but also for we also have customers that's like in medical, so they do HIPAA compliant as well. And so we want to make sure that there is some sort of a information exchange that happens. So now what it's going to do, we'll give it a couple of minutes. I want it to call the person and then be able to confirm that appointment. And when that appointment is confirmed, then I want it to be able to go in and get the details. I have do not disturb. That's why.
Okay, so while Madhukar is setting it up, but I wanna just ask you to kind of pause and think about the use cases, right? In discussing with Christina, she talked about several use cases that a voice-based, a call-based agent could, an automated call-based agent could do. One of the things she said is like, hey, look, when I'm trying to get competitive intelligence about the apartments around me, around my property, a lot of times I would not know any kind of concessions, comps, and to build my comps. I need to know what they are offering, what the rent is like, what kind of concessions they are doing, and all of that. A lot of times that's not available on the website, and they may be not publishing that, and they just may be asking people to call or whatnot. So you could use an agent for that. You want to call that roofing company example that we took. If you want someone to basically call that these different contractors and companies, just to kind of get a quote and whatnot, you could basically build a script for the agent to kind of do that on your behalf, right? I know you have your virtual assistants and all of that doing,
All
but
right. Hey, my name is Madhukar.
Hi, Madhukar. Nice to meet you. Thanks for calling in. Are you calling to schedule a new appointment, or would you like to reschedule or cancel an existing one?
I had booked a tour for next Monday at 3 p.m. I want to see if there's any availability on Thursday between 9 a.m. and 11:30 a.m.
Got it, Madhukar. So you have an existing tour scheduled for next Monday at 3 p.m. and you'd like to reschedule that to Thursday between 9 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. instead. Just to confirm, which Flex Thursday are you referring to? This Thursday coming up, or the Thursday after your currently scheduled Monday?
The Thursday that's coming up.
Perfect. Thank you for clarifying. So that would be this Thursday between 9 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. Let me check availability for you. I can definitely get you scheduled for this Thursday. Would 9 a.m. work well for you, or would you prefer a time closer to 11:30 a.m.?
Let's do 9:45 a.m.
Excellent. 9:45 a.m. this Thursday works great. Let me confirm all the details back to you. Name, Madhukar. Appointment type, tour. Current appointment, next Monday at 3 p.m., being canceled. New appointment, this Thursday at 9:45 a.m. Is that all correct? And just to be sure I have the best callback number on file, what's the best number to reach you at if we need to confirm or if anything changes?
Yeah, it's 650-220-1234.
Perfect. Let me confirm that number back to you, 650-220-1234. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Wonderful. So to summarize everything, appointment details, name, Madhukar, appointment type, tour, new date and time, this Thursday at 9:45 a.m. Canceling your Monday appointment at 3 p.m. Callback number 650-220-1234. Does everything look good? Is there anything else I can help you with today?
No, that's it. Thank you.
You're welcome, Madhukar. Thanks for calling, and we'll see you this Thursday at 9:45 a.m. Have a great day.
You too. Bye. All right. So that's just one example, but we do also have, I mean, you can configure it in a way, but there's one that specifically Christina had asked, which was, let's say you wanted to call, 5 or 10 roofing contractors and then get their quotes. And most of them, maybe they don't use some sort of a email. So you could use the agent to call in, get the details. And because it's an agent, it has access to a computer and all that. It can create a summary, put it inside of an Excel sheet, and then send it to you over email or even through Telegram that I was using. So that's kind of I know we covered a whole bunch of things. So let me just try and circle it in the sense we talked about, of course, marketing requires a lot of different tools and skills. We looked at what Claude can do as an agent with both skills as well as the tools that you connect. Then we looked at from Robin's perspective, what is the agent that it can do? It's highly specialized, that remembers you, remembers what you wanted to from your properties and such. And then it has agents that can do work for you. So one thing we didn't talk about was this agent that we just saw in Telegram. I literally give it access to my one of my Excel sheets, which is where I keep my pipeline. So every morning or whenever there is a change in my CRM, it can then go in and say, okay, hey, something has changed. You need to go take a look at that. So for example, every 2, 3 hours, I wanted to go look into Twitter and see if there's any new things related to AI agent or marketing that I need to worry about. And if it does, then it will go and access and tell me what to do. So it's proactive, it's 24/7, and it's self-learning in the sense you can steer all of it. Now, one of the things that I firmly believe in is we don't want these agents to ever do 100%. And that's the reason why I was saying earlier is that then you lose that human discretion and judgment. And that's why everything within Robin, it will do up to 80%, not because it cannot do 100%, because we don't want it to. And that last 10 to 20% is you and your judgment and your nuanced understanding about your business and so on. So that's kind of where we have built it, and that's an example of how you could use it for your business. So I'll stop here, hand it over to Puneet.
Madhukar, a couple of things I want to add. If you could go back to Robin for Meadowview, there are again number of applications, number of use cases are immense. One of the ones I would simply talk about is like Memorial Day weekend is coming up. One of the things Christina said, hey, look, we love to kind of send newsletters to the residents and to the community about the potential ice cream social, but also what events are happening in the area, right? So again, it's a simple prompt, it's a simple request, and you see this output as a result of what we had created. Similarly, if you're trying to improve the reviews, improve the brand image, and everything, Madhukar, if you could go back to the Google business profile where you're able to build content and whatnot, right? So this was sort of a generated content where it can kind of create a very, very based on your input, very easy way, and then again highlight. A lot of this is done in a way where it's search engine optimized as well, so people can find you as opposed to you trying to reach out to people. So these are just some of the examples around there, right? And again, Madhukar also said like the website update where you can kind of in context in the tool itself update your website and whatnot. Last time I checked, collectively, whether you're using Wix or something else, collectively, my sense was that you guys are collectively using at least 5 to 10 tools in addition to the VAs to accomplish a lot of this, plus spending a lot of your time, right? So if anything, I would say that I would urge everyone here to kind of see what aspects are repetitive, what aspects are things that you could otherwise be giving to your VA or now to AI agent, and something that where you can kind of claim your time doing the best things, which is finding the right deals and really running your business more efficiently. With that, Madhukar, unless there's something to add, Marco and Joseph and Robert, I know that you guys are doing so much on a day-to-day basis. Happy to kind of hear from you what you saw here and adding any perspective, or we'll take any questions.
Kumar and Vinit, thank you. I just want to point something out and share my experience. So I also started using AI extensively for the last like 2 or 3 months, especially on Claude and Cowork. And the way Kumar explained is all true and so legit, and it really helps a lot. I think the point of having an AI agent at this point is not about having some efficiency tools. I think it's must have. Otherwise, you're gonna probably be falling behind in near future. And that much of urgency I had, so that's why I just try to spend as much as time possible and start learning. And there's so many tools. I think it's not about lack of tools. There's so many tools out there. It's picking the right tools that fits your need. So first thing is not about just learning what kind of tools out there, but in conjunction with that, it's also about what you really need to automate using these tools. And as you mentioned, Vinit, I was using a couple of VAs full times, recently up to 2. I let one go because now these AI tools can replace a lot of what they were doing. I still left one because I just needed that human touch side of it. But I was even telling that VA that unless you learn how to use this AI with me and become a VA who can use AI, not just VA, your position is gonna, I don't know what's gonna happen to your position too. And he also knows that urgency too. So thank you for what you have just presented. And I think it's so legit and it's so needed to people. And still people, especially investors like us, when they think we're still, using old SaaS programs or platforms, I think they should learn more about this AI tools, especially which have just presented. So thank you very much.
No, very well said, Yosef, and thank you so much for your words. One thing I will ask you is, would you actually give your AI access to your VA?
The AI, some part. So I also use Notion. I started learning about Notion a lot because I use three different AIs, Claude and Gemini and ChatGPT together. And then now I'm learning about this tool called N8N, which can be work as like a Zapier version for AIs.
Yep.
And now I'm learning how to kind of connect uh, ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude all together and let them kind of become like its own councils, right? So I give a certain permission to my VA from Notion where I could limit what he could see and what he cannot see. So I share a certain portions of my AI tools like Gemini and give them access. But eventually, if I want to make it fully automate, I think I should give some part more leeways to him.
Yeah, so the reason I asked is because that is actually what we have observed. And now, look, I think I'm pretty sure Claude and other tools will catch up. But this shared context of your look, as a business, who is Yosef and your VA is working on your behalf, right? But I think right now you're not necessarily going to give your Claude access to your VA, right?
No, no.
So with that in mind, I would say that the thing that we are seeing is with and obviously Madhukar has kind of lived and breathed this like himself. With Robin, you have this kind of shared environment where there's shared knowledge that actually can be worked as a team, right? So I mean, I know that for example, Marco, yourself, and Robert may have some joint JV or some other deal together, and you collectively have your own VAs. For you guys to kind of come together, collaborate on that one property, and have your team be able to access it doesn't really require individual access to your cloud accounts. But in Robin, you can actually really give it like a collaboration workspace, right? So yeah, I mean, by the way, I'm also kind of curious for everyone else, uh, what other needs use cases that you see that we have not otherwise talked about, and other marketing activities that you might be doing that you might think could be helpful with some AI use cases.
Hi, first Nicole here. I want to thank you guys for the presentation. It was great. I actually have also been using Claude, Cowork, ChatGPT. Cowork probably a little bit more minimally. I'm trying to get myself out of just using the chatbot LMM portions of both of the Claude and ChatGPT and trying to figure out how to use more of the Cowork. And I also want to do some of the coding stuff as well. But I think I have stepped away from a lot of public facing activities over the past year just because of like overwhelm and personal things. But this is going to give me a lot of time back, and I'm seriously considering how to use this stuff to at least take over my social media and at least have a public facing presence on a consistent basis more than what I have been doing. I'm still having some tweaks to work with getting co-work to do some of the tasks, like personal things that I wanted to do. Like I wanted to write me a brief with particular research and all that stuff, and it was having issues like putting it into my drive, which I had access to. So me trying to figure out those kind of little intricate usage cases um, is my blockage right now. But I think my primary thing right now would be using it to be a little bit more public facing with just my core ideology, my
Yeah.
website, which I need to revamp my website as well. The other thing too is like I saw you changing up your website. If I have a website made, not with Wix, I think my website, I even got to look at it because I don't remember what my website is made with. But can you even like if it's already a created website, you can use Robin to still change a website no matter what platform it was created on. And I'm just thinking about like all these other, there's some of the issues with like Claude and ChatGPT is like you could connect one email or one drive or one of those. Like if you have multiple emails, can you connect all of those with Robin? And I like how it can create a co-work kind of environment, not co-work like co-work, but you know, like co-working type of environment within Robin. Because if you have a lot of different emails and groups and things like that you use, like the Claude and the ChatGPT, you can put all of that into Robin and have it work between all those different environments together in one.
Yeah, absolutely. So before I forget, I just wanted to put this up as well, and Vineet can talk about it. But yes, so for website, there's of course Wix, Webflow, Framer, but the most common one is WordPress. We
What's that
do
word?
support we do support just bringing in WordPress and Webflow where you can edit directly. But the other thing that we have been doing for some customers is if they are okay with it, that we will take an agent to redo their entire website in the exact same design and content within Robin. So now you can start to talk to it and make changes. And you can also generate articles for keywords that are specific to you. So then from one single place, it learns about you, it creates that article based on that research, it makes those web pages, and then you can control it with
Yeah,
point
Madhukar, why
and
don't
click.
you bring up? We had this chat with Christina. Why don't you bring up the calendar and the whole content strategy piece of it that came out as a result of our conversation.
Yeah, so one of for that, let me, because I use it for our own marketing. If you go to robin.ai, you would see a bunch of these. So here's the content studio, and within here, you would see, and you don't need to understand all of the marketing speak, but it gives you very deep research about SEO. It gives you deep research about what ChatGPT and others are saying about your brand. And then based on this, it creates your calendar. And the calendar has all the articles that you might want to publish over a period of time just to increase the traffic on your website. So I can do things like this. And then when I go to the article, it generates the article. This one's empty. Let's see.
Yeah. So I would say the starting point was that basically, in case of Christina, at least what we said is like, hey, give me a content strategy for next 1 month. Right. That was the starting point. Hey, I want to improve my social media process based on the current events and in this market. Give me a content strategy for at least one article, two articles at a discrete cadence for a month, and it published the content strategy and topics, right? So just like Madhukar said, it filled out a bunch of content. You obviously have an opportunity to edit it and give it your own tone, add your own thing to it, and then that's when the content studio of Calendar View kind of came about.
Yeah. Did that answer your question, Nicole?
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, so like I said,
Very clear.
I want everyone to think it from two lenses. One is your own personal brand and your own presence out there. But number two, as you become a property manager, you have these different kind of offers. For example, I know in case of Marco has MIH Mastermind. He wants people to understand MIH Mastermind, what the value is, and then, has articles and other write-ups with MIH Mastermind branding. That is one. Marco has his own personal brand, but Marco also has properties that he's going to be sort of talking about and updating, and has tenants and all that stuff. So I think when Madhukar and I were talking about this a month ago, I was like, this has such amazing application, and I'm thrilled that Marco gave us this platform to come and talk to MIH family here about this. All right, guys. So again, again, we are here for more questions, but one of the things that we wanted to do is, we want you to try this. We want you to take advantage of this. Reach out to me. My email is published here, gvinit53@gmail.com. I'm gonna drop my cell phone number on chat as well. Um,
Vineet, Vineet, we have this. It's getting recorded. I'm gonna make a YouTube link in like 2 or 3 hours when I catch up my calls. I'm gonna send it to every MIH member. I'll send it to you guys, and you could send it to whoever you want.
Excellent.
Okay.
Excellent. Yeah, no, but again, really, really thrilled and excited about this opportunity. Once again, well, any walk of life, imagine anything that you used to do pre-internet and post-internet and how those things have changed. This is a bigger seismic shift in our lives as we approach and interact and think about a lot of things. So there are no two ways about it. Um, I would urge, my mind was blown when I first saw capabilities of Robin, and this is why we are bringing it to MIH family. Give it a try. Uh, you got nothing to lose for a month. Give it a try. And Madhukar is a amazing friend and marketer, and he's agreed to give a strategy call one-on-one for those of you who just want to talk about it and see what value you could get out of it.
All right, guys. Thank you for coming. And like I said, I'm gonna email a text to put on the chat. Oh shoot, something fell. And I'm gonna get it out to you guys. And Vineet and Madhukar, thanks again. I really appreciate you guys. I'll be in touch.
No,
Yeah,
pleasure.
thanks
Thank you,
again
guys.
for
Thank you
having
for having us.
Thank you.
me.
Bye.
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 Bye, guys.